The alarm screamed through the council chambers before anyone could speak. Ambassador Khalith's 3 eyes widened as the emergency broadcast tore through every screen in the hall. Static. Flickered, then resolved into the broken face of a Vrax commander, his scaled skin burned and cracking. "This is Battle Group 7. They came from nowhere." The transmission cut to external footage. Massive warships, proud vessels of the Vrax Empire, exploded in silence against the backdrop of space. Something moved between them, too fast for the cameras to track properly. Requesting immediate, the quarantine zone, Earth. The feed died. Counselor Thane slammed his fist against the podium. "Impossible. Earth is a protected world. Pre-contact. They barely have satellites." "That footage is 3 hours old," Khalith said quietly, her voice steady despite the trembling in her secondary arms. "The Krell Vanguard entered that sector 6 hours ago. They were going to use it as a staging ground for their push into council space. The Krell don't make mistakes." Another counselor hissed from the shadows of the chamber. "If they chose Earth's system, they would have verified it was empty." "Then verify it now," Thane commanded. The main display shifted. Long-range scans painted Earth's solar system in cold blue light. Where there should have been one primitive space station, the readings showed dozens of signatures. Hundreds! Energy outputs that made no sense for a civilization that had barely touched its own moon. Keleth felt ice spread through her chest. "We need to send a ship. Down! To warn the humans?" Thane's laugh was bitter. "They're already dead. We need to warn the Krell to pull back before this becomes our problem." "Look at those energy signatures," Keleth insisted, manipulating the display with sharp gestures. "Does that look like a dead civilization to you?" The chamber fell silent. The readings were wrong. All wrong. Power outputs comparable to Council dreadnoughts, scattered throughout the system like seeds. Defensive grids that shouldn't exist. And something else? Something the sensors couldn't properly identify, moving in coordinated patterns that suggested intelligence far beyond what Earth should possess. "I'm going," Keleth announced. "Someone has to make contact before the Krell send their main fleet. You'll violate the quarantine protocols. The protocols died the moment the Krell entered that system." Caliph turned toward the exit. "If we don't act, we'll have a war on our hands that makes the Vax conflict look like a border dispute." Her ship launched within the hour. The journey to Earth's system took 2 days at maximum fold speed. 2 days of watching long-range sensors paint an increasingly disturbing picture. The Krell had sent a second wave. 30 warships, each capable of glassing a continent. They entered Earth's outer planets with weapons charged and shields at maximum. They lasted 4 minutes. Keleth watched the battle feed in numb horror. The Krell formation shattered under weapons fire that came from every direction simultaneously. Point defense systems that never missed. Missiles that changed direction mid-flight pursuing targets with predatory intelligence. And the drones, thousands of autonomous craft that moved with inhuman precision, each one carrying enough firepower to cripple a cruiser. By the time her ship crossed into Earth's detection range, the Krell were debris and distress signals. The human response was immediate. Her ship's systems went haywire as something invasive and impossibly sophisticated tore through her firewalls. Warning lights blazed across every console. Before she could transmit a greeting, her engines died. Life support flickered. Even her personal translator implant buzzed with interference. A voice crackled through the speakers, speaking perfect galactic standard. "Unknown vessel. You are under the control of Earth Defense Network. Do not attempt to maneuver. Do not attempt communication with outside forces. Comply or be destroyed." Keleth raised her hands instinctively, though no one could see her. "I am Ambassador Keleth of the Galactic Council. I come to establish first contact and offer assistance." Silence stretched for 10 seconds. 20. Then her ship lurched, pulled by invisible forces toward a structure that hadn't been there moments before. A station materialized as stealth fields dropped, massive and bristling with weapon emplacements that tracked her vessel with unnerving focus. The docking process was rough. Mechanical arms secured her ship with brutal efficiency, and atmosphere flooded the bay with a hiss that sounded almost aggressive. When the airlock opened, 6 humans stood waiting, each wearing armor that seemed to shimmer with active energy fields. The lead human removed his helmet. His face was young, hard-edged, with dark eyes that missed nothing. "Ambassador, I'm Captain Ryan Torres. You picked a bad time to visit." Keleth descended the ramp slowly, keeping her hands visible. "I came to warn you. The Krell Empire will not accept these losses. They will send everything they have." Torres exchanged glances with his team. One of them, a woman with sharp features and calculating eyes, spoke up. "We know. We've been monitoring their communications for 3 years. Their main battle fleet is already en route. Estimated arrival, 14 hours. The casual revelation hit Khalith like a physical blow. "That's impossible. Our best intelligence agencies can't crack Krell encryption." "Your agencies use quantum-based systems limited by Galactic Convention treaty restrictions," the woman replied. Her name tag read Hayes. "We don't sign treaties we didn't negotiate." Torres gestured toward an interior corridor. "Walk with me, Ambassador. There's a lot you don't understand about Earth." The station interior defied everything Keleth knew about human development. Holographic displays showed real-time tracking of every object in the solar system. AI assistants managed logistics with frightening speed. Weapon systems stood ready in automated batteries that could engage hundreds of targets simultaneously. "You've been watching us," Caliph said, the pieces falling into place. "For how long?" "We detected your survey probes in 1987. Torres replied. "Took us another decade to crack your language algorithms and access your information networks. By 2010, we had full access to Council databases." "We've been reading your mail for 15 years, Ambassador." The words should have sounded boastful. Instead, they carried the weight of simple fact. They entered a command center where dozens of humans worked in synchronized chaos. Screens showed tactical displays, resource allocations, and something that made Caliph's blood freeze. Complete schematics of Council warship designs, defense station layouts, and fleet deployment patterns. "You've been preparing for war," she whispered. "We've been preparing to not be conquered," Torres corrected. "There's a difference. When we realized the galaxy was full of species with faster-than-light travel and energy weapons, we had a choice. Hope you'd be friendly, or assume you wouldn't. We chose to survive." "A new alarm!" blared through the command center. One of the operators called out. "Krell main fleet detected. 217 warships, including 4 dreadnoughts. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, demanding Earth's immediate surrender." Torres moved to a central console, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. "Ambassador, I need you to contact your council. Tell them to stay out of this. You can't fight a fleet that size," Khalith protested. "Even with what you've built, the numbers aren't the only thing that matters in combat." Hayes interrupted. She pulled up a display showing Earth's defensive network. "We don't fight like you do. We don't line up ships and trade broadsides until someone's hull breaks. We've studied every conflict in galactic history. We learned from your mistakes." The Krell fleet emerged from fold space in perfect formation, a wall of metal and firepower that should have been unstoppable. They approached Earth with the confidence of conquerors who had shattered 1,000 worlds. Torres pressed a single button. Execute protocol revelation. Space itself seemed to tear open. From positions hidden among asteroids, moons, and false satellites, Earth's true defense network activated. Thousands of platforms, each one a weapon system designed with singular purpose. Kill ships, kill them fast, kill them all. The battle was nothing like the elegant exchanges Keleth had witnessed in Council conflicts. It was savage, asymmetric, and brutally effective. Human missiles moved with adaptive intelligence, rewriting their own code mid-flight to counter enemy countermeasures. Directed energy weapons fired from angles that should have been impossible, routed through relay stations that turned the entire solar system into a single massive gun platform. The Krell fought back with desperate ferocity, but for every human platform they destroyed, 3 more revealed themselves. Autonomous drones swarmed capital ships like insects, each one detonating with precisely calculated force to maximize damage. And through it all, Electronic warfare packages tore through Krell systems, turning their own ships against them, making their sensors lie, their weapons misfire, their communications betray them. In 2 hours, the Krell main fleet ceased to exist, but not before they transmitted everything they'd seen. Every weapon, every tactic, every terrifying demonstration of human capability broadcast across the galaxy on every frequency they could access. Keleth sat in the command center, watching the feeds from Council space. The reaction was instantaneous and predictable. Panic. Emergency sessions called. Fleet mobilizations ordered. And beneath it all, a current of absolute terror at what humanity represented. Her communicator chimed with an urgent message from Counselor Thane. His face appeared ashen and shaking. Kalith, tell me the reports are exaggerated. They're not, she replied quietly. Then you need to convince them to stand down. The entire council is demanding military action. They're calling humanity an existential threat. They want Earth quarantined by force, all human technology destroyed. Torres appeared beside Kalith, his expression grim. Put him on main display. Thane's image expanded, filling the screen. His eyes widened as he took in the command center. The humans working with calm efficiency. The tactical displays showing complete awareness of every council fleet movement. Counselor Thane, Torres began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. We're not interested in conquering anyone. We're not interested in your territory, your resources, or your politics. We just want to be left alone. Your weapons violate every convention of civilized warfare, Thane protested. Artificial intelligence in combat systems. Autonomous hunter-killers, quantum destabilizers. These technologies are banned for a reason. Banned by you, Hayes interjected. We didn't agree to your rules. We didn't ask to be part of your galaxy. You came to us. You brought us into this. Kalith watched Thane's face cycle through emotions. Anger, fear, calculation, finally desperation. What do you want? Recognition, Torres stated. Full sovereignty. No quarantine, no restrictions, no council oversight. We govern ourselves, we defend ourselves, and everyone else leaves us alone. And if the council refuses, Torres pulled up a new display. Kella felt her heart skip as she recognized the data. Council Defense Network architecture, the locations of every major military installation, the complete order of battle for every member species. We've had access to your systems for years, Torres said softly. We could have struck first. We could have crippled your infrastructure before you knew we existed. We didn't, because we're not the monsters you're afraid we might be. But if you force us to fight, we will. And you'll lose. The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, Keleth found herself looking at the humans with new understanding. They weren't warriors seeking glory. They were survivors who had looked at an indifferent universe and decided to never be victims. Over the next 6 hours, 17 more council members contacted Keleth's ship. Each conversation followed the same pattern. Demands, threats, then slow comprehension of just how thoroughly Earth had infiltrated galactic civilization. The humans had back doors in every major network. They had detailed intelligence on military capabilities. They even had agents, human volunteers who had undergone genetic and surgical modification to pass as other species, operating in council space. How many? Kalith asked Torres during a rare, quiet moment. How many what? How many of your people are out there? Pretending to be us? Torres smiled, and there was something sad in it. Enough. We sent them out 20 years ago on slow ships that took decades to reach council worlds. They've been learning your cultures, your languages, your weaknesses. Insurance, in case first contact went badly. It's going badly now. No, Torres disagreed. Badly would be if we were shooting at each other. This is just negotiation with teeth. The council called an emergency session broadcast across the galaxy. Keleth watched as Counselor Thane stood before the assembled representatives, his voice shaking as he spoke. The situation with Earth is not what we believed. We cannot contain them through military force. The cost would be catastrophic. Therefore, I propose we extend an immediate offer of full membership with complete autonomy and recognition of their sovereign territory. The chamber erupted. Voices shouted over each other, demanding harder action, calling for unity against the human threat. But beneath the bluster, Khalith saw the truth in their eyes. They were terrified. These were species that had grown comfortable in their power, their technology, their carefully maintained balance. Humanity had shattered that comfort in a matter of hours. The vote came down to simple mathematics. Fight a war they would probably lose, or accept a new power that might leave them alone if properly respected. Survival instinct won. The measure passed. Torres received the news with quiet satisfaction. They made the right choice. Did they have a choice? Khalith asked. Everyone has a choice. They chose to live. He looked at her directly, and so did we. That's what this was always about. Earth's admission to the Galactic Council was formalized within a week. The ceremony was brief, businesslike. No celebrations, no flowery speeches, just the cold exchange of recognition for restraint. But the galaxy had changed. Where once species looked to the Council for guidance, now they watched Earth with wary respect. Trade agreements were offered, carefully worded to acknowledge human sovereignty. Research partnerships were proposed, always with clauses protecting Earth's technological independence. Military alliances were suggested, immediately rejected. Khalith remained on Earth for 3 months, serving as the primary liaison. She watched humans work, studied their culture, tried to understand the drive that had pushed them to such extremes. What she found surprised her. They weren't conquerors. They were terrified. Every weapon, every defense, every infiltration protocol came from a deep-seated fear that had haunted their species since they first looked at the stars. The fear of extinction, of being crushed by forces they couldn't control. "We've nearly killed ourselves a dozen times," Hayes explained during one of their conversations. Nuclear war, climate collapse, artificial intelligence gone wrong. We survived each time by learning, adapting, making sure the same mistake wouldn't kill us twice. When we found out about you, about the Council, we just did what we always do. Prepared for the worst and hoped for the best. And now? Khalith asked. Now we wait. We watch. We make sure no one ever has the power to end us without consequences that make the attempt unthinkable. Hayes paused, her expression softening slightly. And maybe, eventually, we learn to trust. But trust is earned, Ambassador. It's not given. 6 months after first contact, the Krell Empire formally requested a ceasefire with Earth. The humans accepted, on the condition that Krell space remain outside of a 100-light-year exclusion zone around human territory. The Krell agreed immediately. A year later, 3 council species faced a devastating plague that their medical technology couldn't counter. Earth offered assistance, sending teams of doctors and researchers who worked alongside galactic specialists. The cure was found in 8 weeks. Earth asked for nothing in return, but every species noticed the gesture. 2 years after that, a fringe colony fell under attack from raiders using stolen military hardware. The Council fleet would have taken weeks to respond. Earth's Rapid Response Force arrived in 3 days. The raiders were neutralized with minimal casualties. Again, Earth asked for nothing. Slowly, grudgingly, the galaxy began to understand. Humanity didn't want to rule. They wanted to never be ruled. They wanted respect, not submission, and they were willing to defend those principles with every weapon at their disposal. Khalith eventually returned to council chambers, but her role had changed. She became the primary advocate for human integration, the voice that reminded nervous politicians that Earth had shown restraint when they could have shown destruction. "They're not like us," she told the council during one heated debate. "They don't think in terms of galactic politics or diplomatic maneuvering. They think in terms of survival, and that makes them the most dangerous species we've ever encountered. Not because they want to hurt us, but because they absolutely will if we threaten them. So we just accept them?" a junior counselor demanded. "Accept their weapons, their violations of every convention we've established." "We accept reality," Khalith replied. "The reality is that humanity prepared for war while we were comfortable. They built weapons while we built regulations. They learned our weaknesses while we ignored them. We can either work with that reality or die denying it. I choose to live." The vote was closer this time, but it passed. Earth would be allowed to maintain its military independence, its technological advantages, its protective isolation. In return, humanity agreed to support Council peacekeeping operations when requested, to share medical and agricultural exchanges. It wasn't trust, not yet, but it was a beginning. On Earth, Captain Torres stood in the same command center where he'd faced down the Krell fleet. The displays now showed a quieter galaxy, one where human ships moved freely, where trade routes included Earth in their calculations, where the name humanity was spoken with respect instead of fear. "We did it," Hayes said quietly, standing beside him. "We survived. We always do," Torres replied. "That's what makes us human." Outside, Earth turned in its orbit, a blue marble in the dark that had gone from ignored backwater to galactic power in the span of a single generation. And in the command centers, research facilities, and defense stations scattered across the solar system, humans continued their work, watching, learning, preparing, because the galaxy had learned one truth that would never be forgotten. Humanity doesn't start fights, but they made damn sure they finish them, and any species foolish enough to test that principle would learn what the Krell had learned, what the Council had learned, what history would remember forever. Never underestimate Earth, never threaten what they protect, and never ever assume that silence means weakness. The galaxy had begged them to leave the war alone. Jumani had agreed, but on their terms, with their strength, and with the absolute certainty that if war ever came again, Earth would be ready. They always would be.